Hello and welcome back to Battlefield, and today I have a tutorial for you guys. I'm having a cheeky little look at the helicopters, little helicopter tutorial for maybe some people who don't know how to fly the helicopters or do very well on the helicopters. So yeah, let's get into this. I'm in the test range, which anyone can access on any platform, whatever. You get practice with all the vehicles if you want to, do whatever, just mess about and all that kind of stuff. And it's the best way to kind of get practice in the field of the helicopters and things like that. So yeah. The best thing you want to look at first is you want to look at and see things such as what are your already using helicopter controls. Well, I'm using the default apparently. I didn't think I'd done that, but I'm actually using the default, which is you go up and down with the left analog stick, and you can sort of like turn like sideways with the left and right. You can yaw, and then you can go up and down like that's elevation, and sort of roll and move about and things like that. And you've got to use both these sticks at the same time when you're using helicopters. You're going to see more of that as I play. So with the helicopters you have three types. You have the attack helicopter, which fires rockets and has a secondary gunner. You have the little bird, which can either have normal sort of like chain guns, or it can have I think it's 20mm or 30mm cannons on them. And it has room for 3 other passengers, 2 on the side and 1 inside, as sort of like your co-pilot, I guess. And then you have the transport chopper, which has 2 chain guns on the side, but the driver doesn't have any weapons. And I think it can carry 6 other people, I think, or 5 other people with you. And anyone can spawn in this. If there's space, no matter if they're in your squad, whatever, anyone can spawn in it, which is different from these two. You can only spawn in these two if they're in your base or if you're on squad. So yeah, I'm going to get in the little bird, because this is the one I like the most. If you click in the right stick, you can sort of see a third person kind of view. Okay, so the left stick, pressing it up lets you go up, pushing it down lets you go down. If you like left or right, it just rotates like this. And then using the right stick, I can move back and forth like this, or roll like this. And so if I move forward, I can sort of like get going like this, and then if I move both in like in the directions I want to, so to go left I go like this, and then I pull both from the left, and I can move quick. I can sort of move it to how I want. It feels, once you get used to it, it feels quite natural, and is relatively easy to kind of get used to, and it's been easier than in other Battlefield games. Remember Battlefield 3 and Bad Company 2, they were pretty tricky to get used to at first. So yeah, there's no other buttons required just to control this. This is all you need, you know, pretty simple stuff, and it's just best just to go around the test area and just have a little play with it. And once you kind of get used to it, it's actually not that hard, and you kind of just go pretty quick and move as you want and things like that. And there's plenty of obstacles and things to kind of avoid, like all these trees and things like that, which you can get in some trouble with. So yeah, it's not too hard. It's all the same controls for everything. The only thing you've got to be wary of is, of course, like how different the choppers are. Definitely the little bird definitely moves like the quickest. This little chopper here moves the quickest, seems to feel the fastest. The attack chopper doesn't feel very fast, and of course nowadays the transport chopper, that thing's a big hunk of shite. But yeah, it's absolutely massive, that thing is. But yeah, you can move relatively quickly, and if you just press in, if I just put this down, oh, this is not going well, let's bail out of that. Okay, there you go, it's landed. Not the best at landing. But if you press cross or A or whatever it is, you can change passenger, you can shoot out of this one. An advanced tip here, which I'm going to show quickly, is if you're an engineer, you can pull out the repair tool, see the guy's flying, take some hits, and you're like, oh, we need to repair this thing. You can just repair while he's flying like that. Just put it there, and you can repair while he's flying. Same with the transport chopper as well. If I show you real quick, you can just repair just on the inside. This one's a bit harder to do, and you can sort of, if you get in the, not in this, but if you can get in this kind of area, you can kind of repair just in here and things like that. So yeah, you can repair on the move, and yeah, it's a good little tip. So with the firing, if we look in the attack chopper, let's just get up a bit so you can kind of see the crosshairs a bit better. You see that little sort of eye? That's where the rockets are going to go when you fire. So if I go like that, you can see it sort of goes all the way up there. If I go down there, it goes all the way down there. It's not where this, like the big, like the little crosshair is. That's not it. It's the big old eye. But that's different with the little bird. They have like a little W instead. But the W isn't where you fire, it's actually the crosshairs. So yeah, you've got to get used to that. But firing's relatively easy. It's just the right trigger on the on both consoles, and it's just like bang, 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 and there you go, you get crosshairs and everything. So yeah, you can kind of get used to that. Not too hard to use really. You've got a gunner in this one as well, which is pretty much exactly the same. If I go up a bit, I can probably switch for it real quick. As you can see, it's just like that, and yep. So, you know, that's just pretty much basic controls and things like that. If you're getting locked onto, which is a right pain in this game, I'll cover an advanced tip on that a little bit later. If you get locked onto, let's just show it here, you just have to press the LB or, is it L1? Yeah, it's L1 on PlayStation. I can never remember the buttons. Just press that and there you go, there's your flares are out, and you're immune to being hit, and then once this happens you just sort of want to fly away. When I say immune to being hit, I mean from lock-on weapons from other choppers that you see here. If you press Y, which is only applicable in the attack chopper, you get the whatever your secondary weapon is, whether it's air-to-ground missile or air-to-air missile or whatever, you get that, and you just lock onto something, which I can't show here, but you know, you lock onto it for your duration, and then you, oh actually, hang on, I can show it, here we go. You can show it here, so you lock onto your duration and then fire, and you have 2 missiles, or whatever you have, and the lock on, and yeah, there you go, it's down. Pretty easy stuff. You can hit from range there, and there you go, taking it down, pretty easy. One thing you got to take into care is you cannot pitch too far, otherwise your chopper will just go flying like straight into the ground. So let's see if I can show this here. So I'm like this, I'm flying normally. I cannot pitch like a ridiculous amount because you cannot recover. I'm trying as hard as I can, but I cannot recover that, and that's what's going to happen. You're going to crash. So this does happen sometimes when you get hit by a lock-on, which makes it a right pain in the ass. And this happens in the little bird as well. It happens in both of them. Let's use the little bird here. As you can see, when you fire, it's not the W, it's the little crosshair in the middle. As you can see, flying around the outside. So yeah, you know, lock-ons are the worst thing in the game. To be fair, they're really frustrating. But yeah, you can get lock-ons on this as well. One thing you have to take into mind is that everything has different ammos and different setups and things, and I'll go into that a bit later. But the best way to show it is, if you've got like these 20 mils or 30 mils, they do damage to tanks. Not too much, but they do damage, you can destroy them. And the attack chopper definitely does the most amount of damage out of the lot. But that thing is really vulnerable because it's quite slow, and it's quite tricky to sort of maneuver in comparison to this one. Sort of go like this, and kind of drag it around and move it a bit quicker, which I kind of prefer. And the attack chopper just feels slower and just not so good, and it's much bigger as well, which is a bit of a pain. I sort of wouldn't feel confident in attack chopper doing this so much. Or if I can maybe show this off flying under this bridge under here, it's pretty tricky to get an attack chopper under here. I can get this under here pretty much quite fine, to be fair. Let's see if I can pull this off. Yes, I can, and there you go. See, I can pull that off pretty easy, no problem. But the attack chopper, that's a lot harder. So yeah. Now let's talk about a bit more about lock-ons and things like that. Whilst you're locking on to like the target, you might do this, and this can then draw the enemy into pulling out their flares, so you can't hit them. But then you can just wait, and you haven't fired a missile to try and hit them, and then you can just fire both real quick and just get them both out, and then maybe put a body of rounds into them, and they're down real quick. Sometimes that won't work on people because they know how choppers work, and they just know if they just hear beep, it's not actually locking on, but only when you hear the da-da-da-da-da, or whatever the noise is for the lock on, is a really shit way to show it. They know that they then need to hit their flares. So as soon as you're getting locked onto, don't hit your flares straight away, okay? Wait until they have fired their missile, and then you hit it, and then it won't hit you. ECM jammers work slightly differently, and I don't really like them very much, to be fair. I think ECM jammers work when someone is starting to lock onto you, and then you fire them, and then you won't get hit on. Not when the missile is fired. You have to wait for them to lock onto you, and then they can't lock on anymore. So I believe that's the way that ECM jammers work. I don't like them though. Personally, I do think that the flares are much better at stopping missiles, because you can hit them whenever you want to, or whenever you need to. So yeah. If you want to try and avoid sort of like, oh shit, okay, if you want to try and avoid stinger lock-ons and things like that, the best way I'd like to try and kind of avoid them is on certain maps you can sort of hide behind buildings and things like that, like structures and obstacles, and this, because the missile doesn't fly around these things, it will sort of come, like you could be like this and someone locks onto you like, oh shit, the missile's coming, you can go down, duck behind this, it will slam into the building, you can go up again, you go bang, 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 and try and get them. You can try and use that if you don't have any flares, or if you're on certain maps like Dawnbreaker, which have like skyscrapers everywhere, so choppers are fairly tricky to take down. You can just sort of like duck behind and go, yep, and the missile hits and completely misses you. So yeah, that's one advanced tactic that can work and can save our ass a lot of the times, and things like that, as you know. Right, let's talk about what kind of targets and priorities you need to go for. If we're in the attack chopper, pretty much you want to take up other choppers, engineers, and then you want to take out things like tanks and things like that, which are dangerous to your team. The worst, well, debatable, but I would argue that the worst enemy to come up against that is probably going to destroy you is something like the attack jet, because they do so much damage to you and you pretty much cannot do anything to them. They're the hardest things to avoid. They can lock onto you, they can just hit you with a bunch of shit. They can ram into you and destroy you, which is the most annoying fucking thing in the world because there's literally nothing you can do about it. So attack jets are probably the worst thing in the world to try and to run into. And the only way you can really avoid them is sort of like flying kind of lowish. Not really low, but sort of like lower than jets will kind of fly at. So they sort of have to be quite risky into trying to take you out. Another massive enemy, which ruins some maps, definitely ruins land carrying down for helicopters, is the anti-aircraft gun that you will find on some maps. The portable one that can move around and things like that. That thing is a pain in the ass. With its blooming missiles and its that fucking gun and everything, it does so much damage to you, and they are a pain in the ass. If one of those is firing missiles at you, just fucking abort, and because you have no chance, and that thing will also destroy you within seconds. That thing is retardedly overpowered. I wish it wasn't in the game, but there's nothing really you can do. And one thing you also do have to avoid is the AI anti-aircraft gun. So if you fly into the enemy's base, they have, which is quite right, I would argue, quite right to have, is an anti-aircraft gun which will shoot at you automatically until you fly away, and this thing does a ton of damage. It does damage to jets as well, but it only works if the enemy spots you. But it's to stop you, of course, doing like killing people in their own base, because the choppers don't have the 10-second countdown time while they're in the enemy's base, like, you know, the normal on-the-ground soldiers do. So yeah, that's something you have to pay attention to, and just try and avoid going into the enemy's base as much as possible, as much as you can. So yeah, that's a tip for that. So let's talk about chopper setup, shall we? Let's kill ourselves here. Let's let ourselves die. The chopper ran us over. Great. But yeah, we can still see the chopper setup I have going on with mine, and I can sort of show you and kind of point you into what you maybe want or what is preferred. So if you go into this, you can just press square, or what is it, X on an Xbox, I think it is, and then just press R2 or whatever, and then at the top you can just scroll through the vehicles you have. So you have all your tanks and shit like that, attack boats, stealth jets, and here's my scout helicopters. So you've got two of these. You've got the miniguns, which you have to be really accurate with those, and I can see why it would work really well on PC. I personally don't like them. And then your secondary, you can go with laser guided, which is like a lock-on the tanks and things if you want to destroy vehicles. Personally, I'd pick the heat seekers, because I think the little bird's more for trying to take down infantry, and the attack chopper's more for taking out other vehicles. And then here you have fire extinguisher is practically useless. ECM jammer, I don't like it, but I personally have the flares. And then you can pick out of these, so you can stabilize the vehicle after a critical hit, which I don't pick, but some people do. You can just reveal people on the minimap, kind of useless. This increases your reload time if you want that. And air radar, which literally shows all the vehicles around you which are in the air if you want that. I have stealth coating because this takes it longer for people to lock onto you, so that's why I have that. On the attack choppers, you have a whole bunch of more stuff. I haven't even looked. I didn't even realise Gunner had secondary shit, but oh, that's pretty poor. But yeah, you can pick what you want here. There's Hydra, there's Zuni rockets, which that's for armor. And this is smart rockets. That will just track the nearest armor target. I personally pick Hydra because you can just determine where you want them to go, and they all do sort of like equal damage for everything, so that's the ones I use. And then this, you can have the tow missile, which is where you control where it goes. It's like the tow missile on like tanks and things like that, which I don't use. And the heat seekers, I just use heat seekers. Use flares again, and I use stealth coating again. The secondary gunner, he has a laser guided, which is a lock on, and he has a TV missile, which is really effective. TV missile does tons of damage. I think you get 2 of those. I think I use them on stealth boats. I think, yeah, no, not stealth boats. What am I on about? I use them on boats. I use them on attack boats. There you go. Stealth boats. Wow. Wish that was a thing. Then you can have the zoom, which I use, infrared or thermal. And you can either have proximity scan or reload quicker, and that's your choices. The big old Venom, what do I call this? The transport chopper doesn't have any of those attachments. It just has flares, I think, automatically. And yeah, this does a ton of damage if used correctly. And yeah, this thing can have anyone spawn in it. And it has room for 4 extra. I thought I had more than that, but it has room for 4 extra, and anyone can get in this whenever, no matter what squad mates, anything like that. It's the slowest of all the vehicles. It's the most agile. It's the least agile one, But yeah, it's pretty effective. You know, two people can repair on the sides, and it's not too bad. So yeah, you can do with that what you will. But most of the time, you find people just go above an objective like, oh, bail out and get to their favourite sniper spot. So that's what you got to do with that. But this one controls exactly the same as the others, just a bit slower. And personally, this is the one to practice in if you don't want to harm your team too much. If there's nobody else in it, then it's okay, and you can just bail out or whatever. The problem most people have is that in a game, people just bail out of choppers when there's like they have full health, and don't do that. Just land it. If you're gonna go on top of a building, just land it so people can spawn back in it again, or people can just jump out with you or whatever and go to wherever. Just don't bail out over the top of things unless there's nobody with you. Unless there's nobody with you and it's just gonna get blown up or whatever. Just don't bother, because you just end up killing people by accident. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope it was helpful in some ways, and I hope it wasn't too sort of like inconsistent or whatever. I hope it was pretty decent. And yeah, I'll see you with some more Battlefield videos soon. So goodbye for now.